So this segment, I would like to talk about the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor opportunity and its relevance to the Islamic finance industry. CPEC is exactly the positive business brand that Pakistan has been needing for a while. And in the context of Islamic finance, it is an ideal, a fantastic opportunity to actually to offer the asset proposition, Pakistan's asset proposition to the global asset-hungry Islamic finance industry. What does that mean? Let me explain. CPEC is part of a wider initiative called One Belt, One Road initiative, which is going to be a game changer for China. It is going to completely change the way China is going to interact with the world, is going to do business with the world for the next 200 years. Right? Just to understand the context, we should keep in mind that CPEC promises to bring down the trade route distance, right? I mean, for China to Persian Gulf from 13,000 kilometers to 2,500 kilometers. That's 1/5 almost, right? I mean, that's bringing it down by 80%. Similarly, in terms of shipping time, from 45 days, it comes down to 10 days. That's an 80% reduction in time and therefore cost, right? So a complete game changer for China, and CPEC is a very important component of this bigger initiative. So what does that mean for Pakistan, right? Pakistan has been the global talent hub for the rest of the world. It is about time we step up and say, you know what, enough talking about 46 billion or 48 billion, etc. Let's talk about how can we contextualize it to the industry and what needs to be done. At the same time, let me start by saying that the overall, the basic proposition is, out of this 48 billion dollars, the local component, the local financing component, will be about $10 billion of financing and about a couple of $1 billion in equity. To me, that is just tip of the iceberg. But before coming to the opportunity and therefore the initiatives which are needed for Islamic finance industry to take advantage of that, let's talk about two challenges and two opportunities. The two challenges is, one, Islamic financial institutions, be it banks or tagaful companies or asset management companies, do not have the scale to actually fully actualize this potential. And therefore, a question for you as a student of Islamic finance will be, how do we build scale to the industry? Second challenge is, do we have enough institutions who can anchor and make sure that the benefits from this initiative are actually sustainable and ongoing? So that institutional framework needs to be in place. The opportunity on the other side is huge as well. Pakistan today is where JP Morgan has just included Pakistan's sovereign Sukuk as part of its emerging market index. And what that means is a lot more investors will be looking at Pakistan to invest, right? That's one. Second, MSCI has included Pakistan as emerging market index, and what that also means is a lot more investors around the world, when they're allocating money to different portfolios, will be looking at Pakistan as well. So we've got the attention of the world. What do we need? What kind of an institutional framework we need to actually capitalize on this opportunity? And to you, as students of Islamic finance, whether you're a student or practitioner, I will leave you with 5 initiatives that require R&D, that requires a bit of thinking, that requires a serious push if we are to capitalize on this opportunity. And the first is, in terms of creating scale, no one institution will be able to absorb this opportunity fully. We need to create an industry fund, an infrastructure fund, right? That can be through the collaboration of various financial institutions. A, that will bring scale. B, that will be your voice when speaking to international investors. You're already seeing Gulf investors wanting to participate in CPEC. Unfortunately, we haven't really marketed CPEC in the way that the world has been asking for, right? So with this infrastructure fund, let's say about, it starts small, it starts relatively small, $100 million, $200 million, right? And you will see leverage this fund, make this the voice of CPEC, talking to Gulf investors who are keen on investing in Pakistan. That's one. Second, trade finance is going to completely change. That's a huge opportunity. That's once in a 50-year opportunity that we are getting. It's very difficult to displace incumbents. It's very easy to do it right the first time. Right now, new trade routes are being written. right? They are being formed, new Silk Routes are being formed. Now is the time to position yourselves, to capitalize on the trade finance routes which are going to be there for the next 50, 100 years, right? And therefore, the starting point I would submit is thinking on the feasibility of setting up an Islamic Sharia-compliant export-import bank, EXIM bank, that will facilitate our exports as well as trade, be the facilitator of trade finance. And in this respect, it should be a forward-looking institution. So blockchain, understanding of blockchain technology has to be an integral part of this initiative. A third initiative has to be CPEC Sukuk. The Sukuk demand for globally, the demand for Sukuk is about $1 trillion, says Ernst Young, right? The supply today is about 1/3 of that. I will even submit Pakistan does not have its due share today. What will it take for us to create a pipeline of Sukuk which is 10, 20, $50 billion? $50 billion is about 5% of the global market share. Can we get there? And for that, an Islamic first policy has to be the cornerstone of our policy. And again, we need to see how we can lobby and how can we convince the government and the private sector that in terms of CPEC financing, it should be an Islamic first approach, similar to what Malaysia is doing on its infrastructure projects. A fourth initiative is think about CPEC crowdfunding. How can we pass on the advantage of all these CPEC projects which have healthy returns, creating carving out a niche and making sure through crowdfunding we are able to pass on the benefits to retail investors. So retail investors who are investing, let's say 50,000 rupees or 500,000 rupees or 5 million rupees is able to participate in CPEC. And in doing so, Islamic finance, in fact, will be serving a very important purpose in terms of both financial inclusion and that fairness, as well as, the economic benefits, passing it on to retail investors. And finally, in terms of talent development, right, the Gen Z. So what does a talent Z going to look like? Beware of the challenge. The challenge is a lot of students coming out only with Sharia knowledge or PhDs in Islamic finance have no understanding of what the business environment looks like, and therefore their absorption within the industry is becoming a challenge. Talent Z has to have the fusion of Islamic finance with new sciences. Data scientists, data is going to be at the heart of the entire financial world going forward. And therefore, how do we produce more data scientists? Let's not talk too big stuff, right? Go on Coursera, go on EDX, and look up the analytics courses there, and the number of other portals as well. And show that willpower, not just wish, but will. That willpower is going to be important if you're going to stay relevant to the mainstream financial industry going forward.